Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again from ESA side to this event. A warm welcome on this cold morning. Yeah, I just want to give you a little introduction into that project, GR740, or as it used to be called here at ESA, the Next Generation Microprocessor development. Well, let's first start with a little bit of history on the microprocessors developed under ESA contract. I shouldn't say by ESA because it was developed by industry. Long time ago, it was before my time, the 31750 was, could call it the first ESA-based microprocessor in the beginning of the 90s. 1.25 micron technology. It was based on the MIL 1750 architecture, a CISC, not a RISC. Two chipset, CPU and MMU. It was providing 2 MIPS. Wow. Then we came to the introduction of the SPARC, mid of the 90s, with the ERC32 chipset. ERC stands for Embedded Real-Time Computing Core. Took me a while to figure out and to find out. It was also based on a commercial IP core. I think the IP was from Cypress at the time. And manufactured on 0.8 micron TEMIC Atmel fab. Now it's called Microchip. The first, let's say, prominent use, maybe there have been other uses before, was on the Zvezda module of the ISS, which I think was launched in 2000. We got up to 10 MIPS. Wow. Then the same design, basically, the same IPs have been taken and put together into a new chip on 0.5 micron technology. That was the so-called ERC32 single chip. And that really made, I think, thousands of flight models, namely also because it was used on Ariane 5 on the IMU. So there were a number of them, but also on all ESA missions, and it also has also been sold, let's say, around the globe. Yeah, still the same design. Now we were at 20 MIPS. The next generation was the 8697. That was the first one based on the Leon IP cores, on the Leon 2 IP core. Manufactured in 0.18 micron technology. And first launches were around 2008, 2009 on the Aeronaut to the ISS and Proba 2. Then we come to the NGMP. But before NGMP, we had a pre-study. This was called the GINA, Giga Instruction New Architecture. It was around 2006, I think that was the final presentation. It was actually the first multi-core study done at ESA. And so what I did was taking 4 cores, 4 Leon 3 FTs, and putting that into a bus. The bus by itself was basically the same as the one we had for the single core on 8697. So it's obvious, and there was a feedback we got when the boards were given to the first users. We have a bottleneck here. Okay, you put 4 cores, and you have a shared bus and a shared memory interface. You have a problem, and there's interference between the cores. And so we had to do some updates to the architecture. Then, a bit later, we got some funding to start the real NGMP development. Got this one, yes. So in the phase 1, there has been architectural design definition, and we came to an extended architecture. As you can see here, the processor bus has been extended from 32-bit to 128-bit. Also, the introduction of the L2 cache to decouple the access to the relatively slow memory interface. What we had at the time, baseline DR2 interface, and also high-speed serial links. Now, this got on hold because actually we didn't have any technology available. We didn't have the access to the technology, to the early versions of the ST65. So it has been on hold for 3 years. That time was not unused. So during that time, the architecture has been improved. And also prototypes in the structured ASIC technology have been done, the so-called N2X. So we were able to give the first boards to users for software development. Meanwhile, a couple of years later, So we got design improvements, namely other IPs were added, like the space-by router has become available, CAN controller 1553, SPI, statistics unit, helping people to profile their software, and also feedback from users, improve the predictability, reduce the interference between cores on the shared bus, because interference had been improved through the new bus system, but it still existed. AHB split transactions, L2 cache locking, random replacement on the caches. We also, little by little, saw that there would be technology limitations, so we had to scrap the DDR interface and the SerDes from the specification. Finally, we got to prototypes. And can't I, let me see. How can I remove that? Yeah. We got to prototypes, and yeah, the first prototypes were delivered in 2016, and boards were made available to users. I guess many of you have seen and used those boards. We got some waiting period again because we ran out of funding. Finally, okay. Finally, we got into the flight part developments. So budget has become available. Some design fixes have been done, design updates, new silicon manufactured, and validation, radiation test. We had a lot of problems with the packaging. That was a big challenge. You see on the left side here, this complicated wire bonding package. That was a challenge. Finally, flight parts, the first flight parts have shipped in Q4 21, and QMLV qualification has been achieved this year in Q2. In parallel, there was also development of the plastic package. I think that was done in 21, yes. And now, a few questions about the funding. I'm getting asked that question sometimes because, you know, ESA is ruled by accountants, so money is everything. And now, how much did we pay for that? Well, I would say, if I take all the contracts which have directly gone into the chip development, 3.8 million, there has been co-funding, let's say 5 million in total. It's a shoestring. I think the previous generation was about the same budget. We have to add, of course, additional funding spent on the accompanying software activities. I say more than 2 million because I don't have the full overview of what has been done. There has also been co-funding because, of course, there's a lot of background IP. So in that, and also co-funding from the software companies. A lot of things have been done on company investment. Now, if you calculate what have we spent per year on a 12 years development schedule, it's €500,000 per year. So it's not surprising that it has taken so long. We have had several hold periods. We had to face a technology unavailability, waiting periods, and waiting for budget. So now, if the funding comes in droplets, that's about what you get in terms of development schedule. But we are there. We have flight models, and now, today, we have a qualified chip. And we even have had a launch 2 days ago, on Sunday morning, a GR740 plastic went into space. You will hear more about that during this day. Okay, well, welcome again to ESTEC for this second edition of the GR740 User Day. Thank you.